All right, let's just jump right in with something that, well, it might totally flip how you think about hiring. We've all heard it, right? Recruitment is an HR function. What if I told you that's just wrong? Today, we're going to dig into a wild story from the Paris 2024 Olympics that completely turns that old idea on its head.
So, get this. The challenge was absolutely massive. Their mission, they had to hire over 800 people in less than a year for, just the biggest sporting event on the planet. I mean, think about that for a second. That's like building a whole company from the ground up, but with an insane deadline looming over your head. It's a staggering number no matter how you slice it.
And just when you think it can't get any crazier, the clock was ticking even faster. Out of those 800 hires, a whopping 500 of them had to be in their seats, ready to go, in just 5 months. I mean, the pressure was just incredible. The timeline, it felt completely impossible. And here's the real kicker. This whole hiring blitz, it wasn't for some glamorous, high-profile team. Nope, this was for the transport team. We're talking an environment that was known for being super tense, high pressure, and let's be honest, on paper, it wasn't exactly a magnet for top talent. So the big question is, how on earth do you solve a puzzle like that?
Well, the answer starts with a pretty bold claim and an even bolder first move, one that basically threw the entire HR rulebook out the window.
See, the recruiter in charge, they didn't do the usual thing. They didn't start posting a bunch of job ads or scrolling through endless resumes. Their first move? It was to grab a chair and plant themselves right in the middle of the transport team's office. Just sit there. And that one simple act, it changed absolutely everything. But to really get why that was so huge, we've got to take a step back and look at the problem they were up against. And it's a problem that, a lot of companies deal with. It's that classic old-school HR recruitment model, the one that by its very design is just too far away, too late, and way too vague to actually work when things get really intense. I mean, look at this comparison. It really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got your typical recruiter. They're sitting in a different office, physically miles away from the action. They're working off a job description that's, let's face it, probably a terrible summary of what's really needed. They're just an administrator, a go-between. And for the manager who's desperate to hire someone, the help they get feels like it's coming from another planet. It's too late, and it's based on this fuzzy, vague idea of what their team is actually going through.
And all that disconnect, it leads to what you could call recruiting in the fog. You're just filtering resumes without any clue what's really at stake. You're trying to sell the job to a great candidate, but you can't because you have no idea what their day-to-day life will actually be like. And what happens? The manager stops trusting you. And the worst part of all, you end up hiring the wrong people. It's a mess.
So, yeah, clearly that old way wasn't going to cut it. And that's where this whole idea of the embedded recruiter comes into play. The big idea here is something called strategic immersion. And look, this isn't about HR trying to micromanage everything. Not at all. It's about physically and culturally becoming a real part of the team. The whole point is to go way beyond just reading a job description. It's about actually feeling the team's needs and even getting ahead of them. So, okay, how did they actually do this? Well, first, they were physically there in the office at least a couple days a week. They were in all the meetings. I'm talking everything from the quick morning stand-ups to the big deal strategy sessions. They made sure they were the first and last person that team leaders heard from every single day, keeping that communication line wide open. And this is so important. They set up casual events, just to build those real human bonds. And this is a really, really key point. The goal here wasn't about being popular or making new best friends. It was about something much deeper, being known. It was about building this solid foundation of trust where everyone could see each other clearly. It wasn't about being liked. It was about being understood. So what's the payoff? What actually happens when a recruiter is truly known by the team they're hiring for? Let's get into the direct impact. I mean, you can draw a straight line from every single action to a powerful result. Because they were living with the team, they could turn those vague, "we need someone" requests into super clear hiring criteria. Because they understood the real tensions, the good and the bad, they could pitch the job to candidates honestly and make it sound compelling. Those daily chats with managers, that's how they came up with new, creative ways to find people together. And those casual hangouts, that became a real-time feedback machine, letting them tweak and improve the hiring process on the fly. And this, right here, is maybe the biggest takeaway. The recruiters didn't have to be experts in the entire transport industry. That wasn't the point. Through this immersion, they became the world's leading experts on this one specific transport team. And that, right there, is what changed the game. You know, when you boil it all down, it comes back to one word: trust. A distant recruiter who's stuck in that HR silo can only follow the playbook. They just execute a rigid process. But a trusted recruiter, one who's earned their spot inside the team, they have the freedom to innovate, to bend the rules a little, and to build solutions with the team that actually solve the problem. So what this all added up to wasn't just, a successful project. It was basically a whole new rule book for how to do high-stakes hiring. And the results? They pretty much speak for themselves. They got all 800+ people hired on time. But it was more than just hitting a number. Turnover was super low. The managers were actually happy and felt like part of the process. And the new people who came on board, they knew what they were getting into and fit right in. Seriously, no other team in the entire organization came even close to this kind of success.
So what was the secret sauce? What made the difference? It's simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It was proximity, just being there. It was getting real intelligence from the ground up. And maybe, most importantly, it was all about that genuine human connection. Because think about it, an embedded recruiter sees all the stuff that you can never, ever write down in a job description. They pick up on the unspoken needs. They can feel the tension between people on the team. They spot that amazing person internally who's being totally overlooked. They can see a team that's on the verge of burning out. The recruiters sitting in the HR office, they're blind to all of that. So this really leaves every leader, every manager with a pretty fundamental question. What do you actually want? Do you want to keep pushing empty processes and writing job descriptions that go absolutely nowhere? Or do you want to build solid, strong teams that can actually meet the challenges you're facing? The takeaway here couldn't be clearer. If you want real results, you've got to break down that silo. You need to pull your recruiters out of the HR department and put them right in the heart of the action, because that's where they belong. That's where they can truly make a difference.